Coming up from sunny Florida, news on cheaper avionics for your Cessna or Piper.
An incredible salute to veterans, the unveiling of a mystery ship,
And yet another free airplane. It'll be live this week from Sun and Fun. Starts in just a moment.
Brightline, instruments for professionals.
and the flying season is underway. Hello everyone, and welcome to AOPA Live this week. We're coming to you from Sun and Fun in Lakeland, Florida, and this is considered by many to be the first major flying event.
And you know, Melissa, it's hard to believe, but I've been coming to the show for almost 30 years and watched it kind of grow up and become a major aviation event where major announcements are often made, like this one from AOPA President Mark Baker.
You see the 152 out front here? We have a Cessna 150, looks just like it, sitting in Frederick right now, that we want to give away to some group wanting to start a flying club.
That's right. Start a new flying club, and your club has a chance to win a better-than-new, reimagined Cessna 150.
I'll tell you what, the best way to have a little airplane that you can push out of the hangar and go for a 15-minute ride or 20-minute ride is a little Cessna 150, 152. Remember, burns 5 gallons. So now do the math real quick. If you go for a half-hour ride, 2.5 gallons. I think we can all afford 2.5 gallons of avgas going out the back of a 150 for the fun factor. So
Baker says flying clubs are a great way to bring down costs and get more people involved in flying. And flying an airplane like the 150 as part of a club is, well, just plain fun. So this giveaway is one way to encourage the formation of more flying clubs. You can find out more at aopa.org/flying club giveaway.
Last year, AOPA helped start 10 new flying clubs, and AOPA's push to form more flying clubs is part of a much larger strategy called You Can Fly.
But You Can Fly isn't just a clever slogan. It's actually a collection of rigorous, very practical, and also really engaging programs aimed at building a better and stronger pilot community. The You Can Fly programs are really aimed at all different parts of the life cycle of a pilot. And so we've got the rusty pilots, who generally tend to be a little bit of the older crowd. We are looking at the Flying Clubs Initiative, which helps to get pilots who've got their certificates and keep them active and engaged in the community for the long term. But then, of course, we need to engage the next generation, and that's where our high school initiative comes into play. AOPA's high school initiative is aimed at getting more aviation curriculum into STEM programs in high schools across the country. We want to expose more kids to formal aviation education in high schools when they're deciding what they want to be when they grow up.
The Rusty Pilots program has put more than 1,200 lapsed pilots back into active flying, and AOPA is working on programs to improve the customer experience for people seeking flight training. We have a great freedom to fly in the United States, and that's thanks entirely for those who have served and fought for that freedom.
Sun and Fun is honoring veterans this week. And AOPA Live's Paul Harper shows us one big way the vets are getting a well-deserved thank you.
As veterans gather in front of the commemorative Air Force tent on the flight line at Sun and Fun, it's clear we're in the presence of heroes. And these flying museums pay homage to those of the greatest generation.
And when you think all these guys, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, were flying these things, say. So it's quite a time.
A time when valiant men like Tuskegee Airmen Colonel George Hardy flew cover in P-51s for bombers, like the B-17's Colonel Bill Brake bravely flew. He just wants to touch B-17 Texas Raiders to remember the mighty machine he led on 22 missions over Europe.
I'm going to go over there and pat it.
You want to pat it?
I want to pat the B-17.
Well, we got something better for you.
What's that?
How about you fly in it with us today?
Really?
Absolutely, sir.
No charge?
No charge at all, sir. No charge. You've done enough for us flying the B-17s during World War II. This is the honor we can do for you. Okay, so we're going to have you and Colonel Hardy with Tuskegee Airmen fly with you.
Great.
On board. Okay?
Great idea.
And off they go. The two pilots, both taking a ride in the back for the first time. Inside, the equipment is old, but the men in the back seem young again. The wind in the window, the bounce of the Florida air, the roar of the engines. It's like going back in time, getting to experience it all over again. But for the colonels, the bomber pilot, and the fighter escort, riding in the back is something brand new.
Did a good flight, Colonel?
Oh yeah, good flight. Breezy back there.
Yeah, it is a little breezy, isn't it?
And noisy. Geez.
Probably a little more than the P-51.
Yeah.
But I found out two things. The B-17 can still take it. And number two, I learned what the side gunners went through with that wind blowing in there all the time.
While the heroes of World War II learn new things about their old familiar equipment, the CAF hopes we'll all learn about what men like these did.
But this is history, you know. We shouldn't forget our history. You know, if you forget your history, you might have to repeat it again, say.
In Lakeland, Florida, Paul Harper, AOPA Live.
And AOPA took some time to honor the folks who are working today to keep you flying out of more than 5,000 public use airports. The AOPA Airport Support Network volunteers.
It's really important to remind you and to remind others that don't know what goes on at these 5,000 public use airports how important your role is in being the eyes and ears for keeping this ecosystem, a word we like to use a lot, because you can give up one airport, you give up two airports, you give up 500 and the ecosystem would collapse. And what your work is to help us use our work, our efforts, our muscle from all of our supporters to keep these airports robust, make sure the business community can do the things that they need to do, the training community can do it, and the recreational and fun community all comes alive at these airports.
The volunteers watched the debut of a new video, Going Higher, America's Community Airports.
And the AOPA, the world's largest community of pilots, is committed to preserving our freedom to fly. Most of my flying is for fun, but pilots everywhere also fly for the benefit of our communities. We have a unique asset in the United States, a robust network of airports that are for public use and for the most part, free to use.
The video will be distributed to all ASN volunteers soon.
We are really fortunate to have an airport that supports what we're doing here.
And it will be available online for anyone who wants to see the value of our airports. There's a brochure and a poster to show all the things an airport does for a community.
And here are some new airplanes that may be landing soon at one of those community airports. Vans is getting a lot of attention with the first RV-14 that is not a factory prototype. The plane was built using the full kit and plans that builders will use. The RV-14 was first announced at AirVenture in 2012, and the kit is now fully developed. Vans says the RV-14 will be easier than ever to build.
All of our years of experience in engineering, input from builders, we need to make these airplanes easier and easier to put together. Right now, the 14 and the 14A is the culmination of all 40 years of engineering and practice.
The RV-14 cruises in the upper 170 knot range and remarkably burns only around 10 gallons an hour. The estimated price for the kit, around $90,000. Mooney is showing off a mock-up of the new M10T. The diesel-powered trainer aims to lower the cost of flight training. The slick composite three-seater still lives up to the famed Mooney name with a cruise speed of more than 130 knots.
And here's a real shot in the arm for Piper's piston engine line. The company announced that UND Aerospace has ordered 112 aircraft from the Vero Beach manufacturer. UND Aerospace provides flight training and aircraft to the University of North Dakota's Aerospace School. Piper will supply Archer TX singles and Seminole twins to UND. The aircraft will be equipped with Garmin G1000 avionics and a special durable flight school interior. By the way, Piper is now moving to a made-to-order model. They don't build it until you order it, so every aircraft is pretty much custom-made.
One made-to-order airplane performing in the Daily Air Show here at Sun and Fun is a SONEX personal jet. SONEX announced that the mini personal jet is now more affordable. The airframe kit has a retail price of $42,000, engine $55,000 on top of that.
Now we have a kit that's relatively inexpensive that you can build and then eventually buy the engine, buy the packages as you go along. So that's made it a lot easier for getting this airplane into the hands of many more pilots.
SONEX is also displaying their new B model YX. The new version has more fuel, more room, and more engine choices.
One young aviator has some great stories to tell. Taylor Avery is a senior at the Central Florida Aerospace Academy on the Sun and Fun grounds. He's a star student, and his hard work earned him a ride in the famous P-51 Mustang. Pilot Lee Lauterbach let him try out Crazy Horse 2. The flight from Stallion 51 in Kissimmee to Lakeland was certainly not straight and level, and they did some acro en route.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, all my experience has been in a little 80-mile-an-hour Cherokee, and just stepping into this thing, it feels so amazing.
Taylor is an Air Force ROTC cadet and plans to go to Embry-Riddle after he graduates this spring.
Really happy to see him get a ride in a P-51. I got to say, though, I'm a little jealous. I've never gotten to ride in a P-51. We got to fix that one of these days.
Definitely.
But when we come back, news that could mean cheaper, more modern avionics for your legacy airplanes.
And it's under wraps, but we have a preview of what's underneath. AOPA Live from Sun and Fun continues right after this.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week, coming to you from Sun and Fun in Lakeland, Florida.
And here at Sun and Fun, a big announcement about putting non-TSO'd avionics into legacy certified airplanes. EAA, the FAA, and Dynon worked together to establish an STC process to install the Dynon EFIS D10A to replace the primary attitude indicator. The D10A has a 4-inch display that includes basic flight data, plus a G-meter, winds, and an optional angle of attack indicator. While the Dynon box was developed for amateur-built aircraft, the STC allows it to be installed in certain Cessnas and Pipers.
And our whole goal and rationale was we want to keep legacy airplanes flying. We think they're missing the opportunity to get good enhanced safety into the cockpit at low cost. In the experimental aircraft world, we've proven that these products are reliable, they're safe, they're dependable. They really are as good as any of the TSO products. So we said, let's go see if we can try to make this happen. And on Monday, we were successful and were given the STC by the FAA.
EA hopes the first STC will serve as a roadmap for other safety-enhancing equipment in the future. AOPA also sees the non-TSO'd route as a practical way to get safe, innovative, and economical equipment into legacy aircraft.
We've got the manufacturers working with us, we've got the FAA working with us, and we want to find ways to get this thing done. And I'm pretty certain that this is going to be the next turn of aviation, big investments with better outcomes and safety.
And here's an example of something for the experimental market that might make it into legacy aircraft in the future. Garmin is producing a new electronic flight instrument called the G5. The G5 can serve as a standby or compact primary flight display for experimental light sport aircraft.
So the G5 electronic flight instrument has a built-in GPS antenna right on the bezel, and it also has a built-in standalone ADAHRS that's completely dissimilar from anything else in the cockpit.
The G5 can also be used to control some Garmin autopilots. It has a retail price of around $1,200.
Hey, but here's something you can put in your Cessna right now. AVIDYNE announced a number of new products and features with connectivity in mind. AOPA's Ian Twombly takes a look at the new avionics.
AVIDYNE announced a number of improvements to their line of IFD navigators. One of the most significant is the addition of synthetic vision. Current customers will receive a version that puts the perspective above and behind the airplane for free. To provide an option for cockpit view synthetic vision, AVIDYNE released the new IFD 550.
The 550, what makes it different than the 540 is there's a built-in ARS, an attitude reference system. So now I can get full motion synthetic vision in an egocentric out-the-window view with the 550.
The 550 provides a powerful one-box solution.
So this is going to give you WAAS, GPS, NavCom. It's got built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so it'll interface now with your iPads or your tablets.
And if an iPad is an essential part of your flight bag, AVIDYNE's with you. They're so invested in the connected concept, they designed a piece of avionics called the IFD 100 centered on it.
Well, the iPad app gives you remote control of your panel-mounted IFD. It'll give you the ability to have a large glass replica of the IFD functionality, so you get full control, you get full display of ADS-B and map and SynViz and everything all on your iPad, so you can have it closer to you and have immediate control.
The iPad app is free on the App Store. AVIDYNE's IFD navigators that have synthetic vision and are compatible with the app start at around $11,000. Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Ian. You can read more about AVIDYNE's new avionics at aopa.org.
EMAG is working to get electronic ignition into more airplanes. The company is making steady progress on FAA certification of its electronic ignition system for 6-cylinder engines. The company has sold thousands of systems for 4-cylinder engines on experimental aircraft, but none are FAA certified.
Electronic ignitions can vary the firing angle, variable timing, and they have a much higher spark energy output, so it can widen the spark plug gap and throw a healthy hot spark across the bigger gap. The combination of those two effects, hotter spark and variable timing, has a very attractive benefit in terms of additional power and additional fuel economy.
So far, only one company, Electro Air, is producing a certified electronic ignition system. That system allows aircraft owners to install one electronic ignition and one magneto for redundancy.
We mentioned Piper and training aircraft earlier in the show, but the company also had some announcements about their heavier iron. The new flagship, the M600, is now expected to receive certification in the fall. The single-engine turboprop will cruise at more than 260 knots. The company announced a price reduction for the M500 turboprop to slightly less than $2 million to better position it in the market.
While Sun and Fun is mostly about the light end of GA and the air show, sometimes the heavier iron folks try to make a splash here. Dower Cicada chose Sun and Fun for a grand unveiling. Now let's go to Tom Horne. So Tom, what's under that cover behind you?
Hey Melissa. Well, this may be the biggest big iron news of the whole show. Dower Cicada is going to reveal the latest in its TBM series of single-engine turboprops. It's the TBM 930. And while the U.S. market will get its first look at the airplane later today at the show, we went to the factory in Tarbes, France to get a preview.
Welcome to Southwest France, where we're checking out the new TBM 930 from Dower Cicada. There's a lot that's new in this latest TBM, starting with the Garmin G3000 avionics suite, complete with Garmin GTC 580 touchscreen controllers. The factory rolls out an airplane for us, and it's on to some instruction in the touchscreens from Stéphane Jacques, a Dower chief test pilot. You can split the 3 screens into 6, use a scratch pad to expand and move charts, look at system synoptics, and move the PFD thumbnail map insert into the compass rows. Here we get a sample of the airplane's new voice warning.
Stall.
No more simple tones or chimes or buzzers. It's time to start up and taxi out for a flight that will show us the 930's new electronic stability protection, ESP, and other safety systems. Now at 20,000 feet, we put on the oxygen mask before checking out the 930's EDM, emergency descent mode. Then we shut off the cabin's bleed air to simulate a depressurization. As the cabin climbs to 14,900 feet, off goes the use oxygen mask alert.
Oxygen mask. Okay.
Pretending to be incapacitated, we don't do a thing, and the airplane turns and descends to 9,400 feet, then levels off automatically. Next came a show of the plane's underspeed protection. I pitch up, close to the stall, and find I'm fighting the controls to hold the nose up. That's the underspeed protection system using the autopilot servos to keep us from stalling. We may mush like mad, but we won't stall.
Landing gear.
Bank more than 45 degrees and you'll also find yourself fighting to stay there. Exert more force and the servos fight back even harder. Keep holding the bank and the autopilot will automatically engage and go to a level pitch, 0 vertical speed mode. As for overspeed protection, you'll get the overspeed warning call out and the plane will trim nose up to keep you out of redline territory.
Overspeed.
With the G3000, you don't need to hit suspend or acknowledge a continuation into the missed approach phase. Just hit the power lever's go-around button, the command bars come up, and you fly away seamlessly,
Landing gear.
following the nav guidance to the missed approach point. Back in the pattern at the Tarbes-Lourdes Airport, it's a visual approach to runway 20. On final, it's 85 knots with full flaps, and a pretty good landing if I say so myself. In the future, look for retrofits of some of the safety systems we saw in older TBMs. Now to find my ears. I think I left them back up at 20,000 feet.
And we'll have more on the TBM 930 in an upcoming issue of the Turbine edition of AOPA Pilot Magazine.
Thanks, Tom. You get clued in on all the good stuff.
He sure does. And that's a wrap from Sun and Fun for this week. However, the show continues through Sunday. Be sure to check our website for all the news coming out of the rest of the week.
And we'll see you back in the studio next week for another edition of AOPA Live This Week.